Call the meeting to order. This is a special call meeting for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, December the 20th. This time I'll ask the city recorder to read the call.
You and each of you are hereby notified that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the City of Tullahoma, Tennessee is called to meet in the special called session on Wednesday, December 20th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. at the second floor boardroom of the City of the Tullahoma Municipal Building for the purpose of considering the following. The purpose of the meeting is to consider Resolution Number 1973, a resolution to support amendment of the city charter. This is an open public meeting. The meeting will be recorded and broadcast live on Channel 6.
Thank you. Would please stand with me for the invocation, followed by the pledge. Heavenly Father, we thank you for watching over us. Give us guidance for this meeting tonight. And we thank you for this season of celebration of the birth of your Son. I ask you now to go through this meeting and all the proceedings being within your will. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As City Administrator, the City Attorney, Lori, to call the roll.
Allmacher.
I'm here.
Barry.
Here.
Glick.
Here.
Noes.
Here.
Mann.
Here.
Mathis.
Here.
Wilson.
Present.
7 present. This time we'll have floors open to comments from the citizens. You'll be invited to speak for up to 3 minutes. Any matter from the purview of the board, please speak into the microphone and state your name and address.
Looks like I'm the only one tonight. Greg Sandlin, 106 Albemarle Drive. Good evening, Mayor and Board. My comments tonight are similar to last Monday night. Moving the August election to November is a bad idea for the following reasons. Would it increase voter turnout? Yes, more citizens vote in November, especially in a presidential election. However, this would also have unfavorable impact on combining controversial national issues with local issues, and this does not serve the citizens of Tullahoma. There is no cost savings in moving the election, as there will still be a state and federal primary in August for State House, State Senate, county offices, U.S. House, U.S. Senate. We need our Board of Mayor and Aldermen to lead by example, to set the annual budget, keep our taxes low, empower our city administrator to manage the city, to ensure safety and well-funded police and fire, roads, public works. We need our city to support parks and recs and run an efficient city administrative government. This is the function of city government. It's not rocket science, and it certainly does not need to be associated with national and divisive partisan candidates and issues. Everyone on this board campaigned as a conservative. I supported every single one of you and brought a lot of friends to support you also, all except Alderman Dunn, Alderman Mann, who was appointed. I had your signs in my yard. I assisted you with strategy. And I've been behind you. So rather than waste your time deliberating on adding months to your terms, how about a special session on ways to cut spending? Lowering our taxes, that's what conservatives do. There are a lot of Tullahomans hurting right now from high inflation rates, high food, fuel, mortgage rates, rent costs. It's tough for a lot of folks in Tullahoma. So I just encourage you to focus your limited time on the needs of the citizens and not on some abstract political strategy designed to garner votes in November. So cut our property taxes, run lean government, Tullahomans will be writing those 2 property checks for county and city property tax in the coming weeks. Cutting costs to Tullahomans, that'll be acting like conservatives, and you'll have no problem getting reelected. Lastly, whatever the charter change happens, and I read the article in the paper, I didn't hear, whatever happens, we've got to eliminate that August 2025 city election for judge and 2 school board seats. I didn't see that in this agenda, in the packet. That will make sense, and that will save us some money. So thank you for your attention.
You understand?
Point of order, Mayor. We have a tradition of if you're talked about, that you can respond. And we were all kind of talked about there in a negative light with some insinuations that what we're trying to do here is garner votes for ourselves. So I would like a second to respond.
There were no names mentioned, so I didn't know.
Well, there was one.
Then I hope you will stay. And then when we enter this agenda item, I'll make my comments.
Or Alderman.
Anyway, at this time, since there were no names involved except Mr. Mann, he's the only one that needs to respond.
I'll wait.
Thank you. Okay. This time, the only thing on the agenda tonight, of course, is our resolution number 1973, resolution to support the amendment of the city charter. And you've heard the call. The only thing I need at this point is a motion.
Is this on approval of the agenda?
That's the only thing on the agenda.
Okay.
I think we need to back that out. Point of order. This is literally the item. This should actually read approval of the agenda, because I think we have an option to not vote. I mean, not that we would, but just Robert's rules. Procedurally.
Yeah. First, we have to approve the agenda, and then we have to vote on the,
Okay,
on the item.
we can do that. Certainly we can. Need a motion to approve the agenda. Motion for Barry, seconded by Mann. Any discussion on the amendment, on the agenda? Seeing none, we vote on approving the agenda. The agenda is approved 7-0, so at this point we have the unfinished business is the resolution number 1973, a resolution to support the amendments to the city charter. Need a motion from Barry, seconded by Mann. Barry, you recognize.
This relates to this item and addresses some comments made. I appreciate the opportunity to present a different perspective on these issues raised by Mr. Sandlin regarding the proposed shift of the August election in November. While I respect Mr. Sandlin's viewpoint, there are several aspects that merit a broader understanding. One of the issues he talked about was voter turnout and election timing. Mr. Sandlin's opposition to moving the election in November cited the mixing of local and national issues. It's a superficial argument that overlooks the core principle of democracy, maximization of citizen participation. By shifting the election to November, we will see a participation increase of over 100%. It's ironic that someone who served as an alderman, a position demanding a deep understanding of civic engagement, would advocate for a lower voter turnout. His stance seems less about preserving the integrity of local issues and more about manipulating election dynamics to favor certain outcomes. Throughout this process, we've seen non-elected individuals attempting to infiltrate the ranks of city government and use city government to slow down this process, several of whom have previously served on the BOMA and who have expressed plans to serve again in the future. To quote one of these individuals, who I will not name, "The benefit of having the elections in August is that no one is paying attention. Moving them to November changes that." Furthermore, local candidates and civic groups can address this by using a heightened political awareness during November elections to amplify their messages. engaging in the broader political dialogue and highlight local issues within the context of state and national discussions, potentially leading to a more engaged and informed local electorate. During the broader elections, local leaders can precisely frame municipal issues with the larger context, educating voters about how local governance impacts the broader issues that they care about. Increased engagement provides an opportunity to connect local action to state and national policies, making municipal issues relevant to the concerns present in the November elections. There's also a claim that there are no cost savings in moving the election. This is short-sighted, and it ignores the potential for long-term efficiencies and savings. Mr. Sandlin's tenure as an alderman was marked by similar myopic policies that often prioritized immediate appearances over sustainable, fiscally responsible decisions. We need to learn from past mistakes and aim for solutions that offer lasting benefits. While Mr. Sandlin emphasizes the traditional role of the board, it's crucial to question his sudden concern for nonpartisanship. During his time as alderman, there were numerous instances where popular opinion rather than conservative principles swayed decisions. His current stance decrying the so-called abstract political strategy seems disingenuous given his history of capitulating to partisan pressures. The insinuation that we cannot walk and chew gum at the same time is absurd. During his tenure in office, he added to the budget. In the past 6 months, even with the shadow drama that has been around this board, we worked to focus on policies that look to the future. Policies such as the new street cut ordinance sponsored by Alderman Glick will help save hundreds of thousands of dollars over time by holding utility and construction companies accountable for the damage caused to our roads. Early next year, we're going to introduce ordinances and policies that are going to require cost forecasting and maintenance for capital projects and major equipment. This will ensure that our city no longer builds things that we cannot afford and cannot maintain, just kicking that cost down the road. The insinuation that this is a move to garner partisan votes for a partisan agenda is ironic, as Mr. Sandlin, in his capacity as chairman of the Coffee County Republican Party, a partisan office, used his seat and position behind the scenes to manipulate the primary process because he thought one of the candidates wasn't suitable for the job. Mr. Sandlin's call to focus on local economic challenges like inflation and high cost is valid, but it demands an honest examination of its roots. Many of these issues stem from the policies enacted during his tenure and the tenure of boards that came before us, which favored short-term gains and photo opportunities over long-term stability. His proposal to cut taxes as a reductive solution to complex processes that he, in part, helped create. Meanwhile, even with the shadow of drama that this board has had, we've fixed zoning issues created during Mr. Sandlin and others' tenure that impacted the property value and ability of homeowners to maximize their property. While mortgages and inflation are out of our control, this board has helped to increase the inventory of homes, apartments, and townhomes that will decrease those costs long-term, those mortgages and those rates. We can't affect the rates. That's the federal government, and we should know that locally. We've worked to help streamline planning and codes, which reduces the red tape needed to increase our inventory. While Mr. Sandlin's remarks might resonate with conservative rhetoric, they fall short of addressing the real issues at hand. It's time we move beyond the narrow, short-sighted policies of the past, policies that Mr. Sandlin himself once championed, and focus on inclusive, forward-thinking solutions that truly benefit Tullahoma and its citizens. This charter, on the whole, does that, and that is why I support it.
We have a motion and a second. I want to recognize the city attorney because you have some comments that you want to make regarding some changes that have come since our last
Yes. Thank you, sir.
meeting that we had on.
You will recall that we met on Monday night with Hannah Rogers, and she has worked tirelessly with Mr. Quick and I and Ms. Wilson in order to incorporate the changes that were discussed on Monday night's meeting and to address those issues. But particularly, the most important one is to take the position that we have in relationship to our having the legal ability to also address the election of boards of education members as well as the board of mayor and aldermen. We believe we have a consensus among certain people that are involved in this process that we do have that authority. So we have placed a provision in our charter that's sort of a generic provision that doesn't lay out the progression of electability and the elections of various members on the board now and in the future, but provides a framework for that. In the event that the legislative staff were to question that, Mr. Berry and I and Ms. Wilson are working on an alternative private act that would address just that issue with that kind of language in it. We don't have that ready for tonight. We won't need to have it really, probably, or need to have it ready until we know whether or not there's going to be any problems with the legislature. We're going to work on it and have it in place before that time. So I call your attention to the, and by the way, the other things in here are just little housekeeping items that we addressed and Ms. Rogers did deal with. So unless you want me to go through each one of them, which I think are relatively insignificant, I think the important one is the one I'm going to relate to y'all now. And that is, we added the election of Board of Education as a new article all by itself, and it's going to be Article 9. It's going to, my page numbers are different from the ones that I was working from, so bear with me while I find that, if you don't mind.
26.
It's on page 26, Mr. Berry, okay. And we reviewed this with Ms. Rogers, and staff has reviewed it, and we think that it's adequate. Election of the Board of Education. Just to read that, if you would, I think it's easier for you to read than for me to read it to you, and see if you understand it. And that does create the framework for what we'll be doing.
I think while you are reading that part of what we had worked, and I sent you the draft, it was late, so it's probably what, that does address, it will address moving the elections from 2025 to 2026, so that we get rid of that. It wasn't on here, but it didn't slip our mind.
Anything else, Counselor?
Not anything else that anybody has questions about things.
No,
Everything else are things we addressed that were very minor things that were corrected.
I guess I'm going to make a motion first, and then I have somewhat of a comment to make, and it's relative to that. I'd like to make a motion to amend the language on page 26. Elections for the Board of Education commencing in the year 2024 shall coincide with the November general election.
Yeah, I thought we had that discussion before. I mean, I don't know why that would be 2026 when we're doing the Alderman election for 2024. It should say 2024.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, we need to get over
In my conversation with Andy with the Election Commission, he was extremely concerned that we would not be able to meet that deadline as far as it being ratified by the legislature. And I wished I had my notes in front of me. I believe it was February 16th, if I'm not mistaken, that if it was not ratified before the 16th of February, that it could not go into effect. The other, and the concern also...
Point of order, 1 second. I already have the answers to those questions. I haven't had a chance to answer that. So, point of order, I've got to get a motion and a second on the floor, then we'll discuss, and then if we don't hit those notes, tag you back in, okay? So, I make a motion. All right. May I have the floor, Mr. Mayor, still?
Recognized.
Okay. So, yes, that is correct. Okay, so here is I reached out to the State Election Commission for some guidance on this, and well, I don't have anything in writing just yet, because obviously this is something I was reviewing this week. there's a little bit of misconstruing. So we do not have to cancel the primary or anything like that. And so long as we have a decision by the end of April or perhaps May, we're already having an election in November. Technically, that election would just be amended based on this. He would know now, that we're planning to do that. And we would also have to have it by that timeline for our aldermen elections to change the same way. So we're depending on that already in the language in this charter that we're moving the aldermen elections in 2024. It would be no different for the school board elections either. This would not have an effect on anything already happening because what the voters may not understand is the election that is currently happening is not our election. It's not a municipal election. It's not a general election. It is but a party primary for that party to endorse candidates on the ballot to send to the general election. It will be up to the party what they want to do with that. This would just simply be moving the election the same way that we are trying to move the aldermanic election. And I see no reason to put that off. The language would not have to change any further in this because those terms for the 2025 election would still be extended. Either way, whether we make this active in 2024 or 2026, it has the same effect. The alderman elections and the municipal school board elections, we do want them, to be at the same time. And maybe that will address some of Mr. Sandlin's comments. He wishes that we could get rid of the 2025 election to save us some money. So we can do that here and now. And he also hopes to make it a little less divisive and partisan. Well, our elections are not partisan. So maybe if we tie those back into the municipal elections, you will have enough local candidates running at one time that you not only will get better turnout, but you'll get more involvement with what are the issues. So from a perspective of what it could serve to do, also just a perspective of we have to have this done anyways and back at the same time, so it wouldn't change anything, so that we can get our own elections done.
Any further comments?
Could we hear from it?
Alderman Glick, you're recognized.
Or I'll take both.
I'll give it to them right now.
I don't disagree with that. We can try that, and if it doesn't work, then the legislature may kick it back to us, and we can take care of it then. But it makes sense to me, because it is just a primary, and obviously the general election could be after the primary, whenever it's going to be.
Alderman Glick, you're recognized.
I was just going to state my agreement with Ms. Almacher about the changing of both of them. I think it's, I don't really see any reason to delay to 2026 for one and then change ours. So I think they should both be changed, and the sooner the better.
You recognize City Administrator?
Yeah, I think I just want to reiterate, in my comments talking about Andy Fair, those were his concerns, and the fact that candidates have already met deadlines to submit to become candidates with the commission. As I've stated several times, in my role being non-political, non-partisan, whatever you say you want to do, we will do. So I really don't have an opinion one way or the other.
This doesn't affect that candidate, that partisan primary. Again, that is how this works for the general public is the parties have I believe it's like 75 days, somebody can correct me on this, 75 days to tell the Election Commission before when they want to have a primary. So they have to actually request to have a primary. And our county party Republican Party, excuse me, I'm a member, everybody obviously isn't, but our county Republican Party made the decision to hold a primary in March, and that they were given the timelines that are already in our charter and things like that. They were well within their right to do that. That is their partisan primary. That has nothing to do with the rest of the citizens, independents, Democrats, any other individual. They can choose what they want to do with the results of that primary, or how they want to handle that going forward. That doesn't affect anything we have in here.
Any further comments? Alderman Berry, you're recognized.
I like that. My only question would be, so what language in here wasn't quite enough, right? It was, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of a placeholder to get it in there until we have this other. I spent like 4.5 hours today doing the math and to get all of these, and I have a pretty cool document that shows all the iterations on to get all the terms and everything set. Like we still have to have language that changes if I can find it here, this language, the terms of the 2 school board members, et cetera, on 21, extended from 25 until, we have to have all that language. I guess my question is, can we still do it? We obviously can't do it in this election or this meeting, but we would need to get that in January and immediately as a separate private act still?
No, we don't want to do it as separate. We decided to do it in the charter.
So we would need to put all of this in here tonight.
If you have it written out,
but I did it based off of 2026. There's a lot of changes to do it for.
It would essentially be, I think what would make it easier is the terms are extended the exact same way. So I think you could just copy over the language. The terms of the individuals essentially are extended the same way they were when we extended our terms the first time. Makes sense when we went.
Right.
So we have that language in there already. So can we go back to that page? I think that might help us.
So that's what I did for the school board. So I did all the tables and the charts and the graph to do the whole timeline. It took a while. I mean, if we would need to, I think that language would need to be in here now if we want to do the.
Well, we need to add it in now.
Microphone. We need to get them 2 microphones.
Well, no, can y'all hear me? I think I don't need it. I think it would be helpful in the nature of enabling us to be able to do mechanically what we need to be done. So I think that if this enables us to do it, we can do the details ourselves. It wouldn't hurt to put that language in there. I was under the impression that Joe wanted to have something finished tonight, and we didn't have time, Mr. Berry, although you worked really hard all day and helped me with this to try to work out the mechanics of it. But Stephanie, with MTAS, the attorney with them, has approved the language. In fact, she altered a little bit from what I suggested. And I think that this will do it. But in case it presents a problem, that's why we're going to do the backup private act just to address this one issue. So if you want
So we can do 2 at the same time?
Yeah, just in case something.
We don't have that one ready to go to do it tonight, but we could always submit it as an alternative, in January if we wanted to do that.
Separate change.
The city administrator has input.
Yes, I went back as y'all were speaking, looked back at my email, and I have those comments that I was giving to you from Andy, and I have forwarded that email to you now. I don't know if you'll be able to access it, but it does give specific information on what we can't do, and it does talk about why he recommended the 2026. So I don't know if y'all want to take a second to look at that before we do anything, but he does say that it does need to be in the charter.
Yeah.
Of course, according to what I read. Or I can read the excerpt that I want you to see. I can do either one. I just want to make sure you have this information in front of you.
So this would address moving it to November, but it doesn't address the 2025, but we could do that separately next year. Or in addition, I'm okay with that, I think. This moves what's currently happening in future, all of them to November.
I mean, yeah, because if you're...
It's a two-headed dragon, right?
We're not getting rid of any elections this year, in other words. It's still the same people, but I think we do have to put language in here because it does technically extend their terms. It would extend their current terms from August to November, which is a very simple, I think, addition here. So,
Well, it says that, though.
yeah, so the term shall be extended from August until the member's successor is elected and qualified to the next. I would take out next is fine, November general election following the expiration of his or her term. I think this actually just makes it more succinct. I think it still hits everything because it says, I mean, you could apply that to whatever member. Because it says at the next November general election following the expiration of his or her term.
Right, so it hits the November. So there's two pieces.
Right.
One is extending to November. This, I think, covers that.
Yes.
We'll still need to separately address moving the 2025, extending theirs to 2026.
And I think we can do that in a separate act
Yeah.
because this one accomplishes this year's.
I'm good with that.
That's my...
Worst case scenario, do you think that they wouldn't kick the whole thing back, right? Maybe they just
They might just
say,
have a comment about it, is what I would think, rather than kick it all back.
But if we have a separate private act coming and in conjunction with that, you say, oh, yes, we had addressed that specific election year. This is just addressing this election year
meant
and
the
going
2024.
forward. It's only simply, we're just moving the school board elections. We're not getting rid of the 2025 necessarily in this, but we are moving the school board elections in line, like we said we wanted to, from August to November
so we
in
can still
this.
proceed as you had said.
Yeah.
Run with this and then run with that second one, but change, that's a lot.
And
Gotta do.
that just affects 2025. Yes.
We can do that, yeah.
So instead of 2026, it would say 2024.
Yeah, so my amendment is changing one word in this. 2026? Or one number, yes, to 2024.
Ready to vote? Voting on the amendment, changing 26 to 24. Passes 7-0. Go back to the original motion as amended.
Change my math.
Any comments on the original motion? Mayor Glick, Alderman Glick, you recognize?
Yeah, I had a question about, excuse me, section 14 on page 5. I remember talking about this in the study session, and it was about appointing, who was appointed to appoint boards and agencies. And I remembered we came up with some special language that said the Board of Mayor and Aldermen would appoint all vacancies in the boards unless it was in violation of state law or that board's.
It was about removing, we may remove, this board may remove the mayor's appointee by supermajority vote in accordance with state law and the continuous creation of the office.
But I mean, the appointment of it too was supposed to say that, not just removal.
Where did you say, Kurt?
I don't think we ever did.
It's,
Tell me what page.
it's page 5.
Okay. Sorry.
Section 14?
Yeah, section 14.
Yeah, it says
no, it says
and/or. It should say,
The board, says that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, that's the appointing authorities of, and then list all of those.
Well, we already appointed all those.
it should say, yeah, no, but it should say the
We don't.
the mayor
we don't appoint all
and
of
board,
them.
not and/or, but the mayor, board, or alderman.
Well, we can't. So like the Municipal Regional Planning Commission, we're not allowed.
Some of them,
Right, that's
Well,
state law.
that's the state one.
Yeah. And that's why I said that. That's why I thought we came up with that special language, unless precluded by state law or these other agencies' founding documents.
think we did. I don't remember having that conversation, and I think we briefly talked about it, but it was determined that we already do. So we already appoint TUA, we already appoint.
We don't appoint all the seats on the TUA, right?
All but the mayor gets one, and there's nothing, that's,
No, that's just
We
by,
do appoint all the
We do
seats.
appoint all the seats.
You appoint everyone on TUA.
We appoint all the
not the board of mayor and
so
aldermen.
but that's not our,
Oh, I see.
that's the mayor's appointment.
By set up in this charter, that's what I'm saying.
I think that's an ordinance.
Anything we change in the charter, we would just have to change as an ordinance
It
as well.
changes in
So the question
ordinances.
is, do we agree with wanting to do that?
I
And
would say just leave it in the ordinance because it's easier to change.
as long as we have the ability to change the ordinance by the charter, I'm okay with
Yeah. Outside of that, we appoint all the seats for TUA. We appoint all the IDB, except for there's always a mayor's.
Yeah, but the way that this is phrased says the mayor could do it all himself.
No, no.
It says and/or. No.
and/or means we could, it depends on how we set it up in our ordinance on whether or not we have the authority. In the ordinance, there's a chart, I've seen it, it's the chart, and it specifically lays out which boards, or which board seats we appoint collectively as a group, and which he has the authority. Now, we can change that ordinance without changing this charter, and the way this reads, it's not saying that he has the end-all be-all authority. It's just we need to defer back to our ordinance. So I'm okay with the language, but I do think, I also agree,
Let's look at the ordinance.
let's look at the ordinance. That's something we may want to change. This doesn't preclude us from changing that to the board appoints all members of all boards.
Well, and
Well, it depends on how strongly you feel about it, I
well,
suppose, yeah.
we always have the option to remove who we don't like.
And now we did add that in here, and so they can't take that out of the ordinance. So, I mean, I'm okay with this for now, but I would like to revisit the ordinance.
And that's no knock on our current mayor or any one person. It's just I feel that these boards are better seated by a body of people, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, all selecting these people. And it's no knock on any one individual. I hope you don't take it that way.
Oh, I agree with that too.
For virtually every board, the majority of the members on that boards are appointed by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, by the group collective.
But there's usually,
There's several of them that have a mayor's appointment.
well, but it's the mayor's seat on that board. And the mayor is, there's a difference.
There's only one. That's
It's the mayor's seat on the planning commission
That's
only,
it.
yeah.
But we can't change that state law
Yeah. But TUA then.
ordinance.
Well, I know, but if you feel strongly about it, that it's the right thing to do, I think it should be mentioned in the charter. If we don't, and, maybe we all don't feel that way, then you could do it by the ordinance, and like you said, it's easier to change. But if you feel strongly about something, you want it in the charter, so it's not so easy to change.
Right.
I think the charter as it's written right now is very encompassing, and there's no reason to change it. It ain't broke, in other words.
I did, not to change the subject on you, but something else that the mayor, we did change the language in here. I haven't looked at it today about special called meetings and the alderman having the ability, that's changed, correct?
4 members.
Yes.
We changed it to 4 members. And then one other question. I don't know if this is in a charter and ordinance, but do you remember where it said the study sessions always had to follow? There was something that said study sessions. Did we take that out?
I don't think that's changed our,
That's the ordinance.
Yeah, that was
Okay,
not
good, okay.
I think that's in our rules of order rather than the charter.
All right.
okay, ready to vote on this? Ready to vote on Resolution 1973,
Well, I want to,
as amended.
I was going to make an amendment to change that language to where I want to make a motion to change the language in section 14, says all those boards are appointed by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, where it's not precluded by state law or the agency's founding documents. Just like it says, that same language it says in the removal, it should say in the appointment. And I make a motion for that.
I'll second.
Alderman Mann is seconded. Ready?
No, it's
Alderman Berry, you recognize.
Never mind.
I'll be opposed to that amendment, in that I think it's very encompassing as it already is, so I see no reason to change it. Any further discussion?
She needs clarification on the
I
amendment.
think you just take out mayor or, and just put the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Yeah.
Take out and/or and replace with the.
Just the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
If you do that,
In accordance with state law.
Planning Commission being,
Well, there's more to
There's a
that.
point.
So,
Except the ones that the state
The
dictates.
Board of Mayor and Aldermen as the appointing authorities for the members of yada, 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 all the way down to the river, comma. The other language is in accordance with state law and the entity's creation documents, comma. Which, to me, it ends up reading the exact same thing, right? But
Yeah.
that's why I look at it, because it's still the exact same thing.
It's the exact same thing, except you take out the mayor, and then it doesn't force, you're saying it would be the same thing because we could remove them, but then that forces us have to go through the removal process.
I have some, I'm okay with this change, and here's why. Because it says the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, so if the Board of Mayor and Aldermen choose to delegate that to the mayor in our ordinance, do you see what I'm saying? Then it's really the same thing. We still get to decide by ordinance who has what appointment power.
Except for the planning
I
commission.
mean, if we make this change and say it passed tomorrow, nothing how we operate changes.
No.
This statement doesn't change anything because all these boards are already how they are. So do you have that language?
Remove and/or and replace with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
And then after Duck River Utility Commission, 3 lines up from the bottom of that page, after that comma, insert in accordance with
State law.
and the entity's creation documents, comma.
In accordance with state law.
And the entity's creation documents, comma.
And then just pick up with where removed and are hereby empowered. I feel like there should be an end there. And are hereby empowered.
Yeah.
Okay, here, your motion.
I thought Derek already did.
I did, Jimmy did.
Okay, let me read it to you because it's not showing all of it on there. Remove and/or and replace with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. After Duck River Utility Commission, insert in accordance with state law and the entity's creation document and are hereby empowered.
Yep.
Does that sound
Showing
good?
all that.
Does that sound okay with you?
Yep, it's forward.
Did Jerry vote?
I did.
passes 5-2. Back to the original resolution, 1973, as amended 2 times. Ready to vote. You've got to City Administrator's got a comment?
I have a question.
Speak into the microphone, please.
Sorry, maybe this is an attorney question.
Okay.
But if you go to page 35, section 7, under TUA, that part also talks about appointment by the mayor of the city. So would that be our charter, or would this be considered subject to their incorporation papers of the agency? Or I just didn't know if that was a conflict.
I didn't follow your question. I just found page 35.
Say that again, Sue.
Okay, if you go to page 35, where it's got our charter part for TUAs, and where they went to TUA.
What page again?
Page 35.
Section
Section
7.
7.
It's got appointed by the mayor of the city. And my question is, does that conflict with what you're changing, or would that be considered a incorporation agent document of the agency?
Well, we can change that as well, can't
Or would you, that's what I wondered if you...
If it's in this charter, we need to change it there in section 7 as well.
Mayor.
Well, I think to answer your question, I think the other provision would not conflict with this, because it says if the agency, there's language that said if the language relative to that agency provided otherwise, we can do it, but if they want to change this, they're going to have to change section 7, if they want to do that. We've been through these things a lot of times. I wonder maybe at this last minute if we should be a little bit more cautious about changing anything else right now.
So this just allows the mayor to have one appointment.
we? We have 4.
However, I would like to make a motion.
Yeah, I was going
Are
to.
you already there? Okay, sorry. Never mind. I had
I'll make a motion to amend section 7A to read the same all the way through 5 directors, comma, strike 1 from 1 all the way to and, or no, leave and. So strike 1 of which shall be a member of the board, the city board, and no, that won't work, guys. That won't work.
okay.
Okay, yeah. 1 of which shall be a member of the city board and be appointed by the board of mayor and
Yes.
aldermen.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, there's the change. So the amendment is to read, the Board of Authority shall consist of 5 directors, 1 of which shall be a member of the city board and be appointed by the board of mayor and aldermen. And so that's the only change. Strike mayor of the city and add board of mayor and aldermen.
So the mayor has one appointing power left.
All right, that's the motion. Second.
One of
Second.
which should be a member of the city board.
And be appointed by the board of mayor and aldermen.
So this board has just removed any appointing power of the mayor. So this board has just got, if you pass that amendment.
Not necessarily, we can change it by ordinance.
So
No, you can't at that point.
Or not on this one, but I'm talking about, he said all appointment power. We're just talking about the TUA board. Yes, it does. But it doesn't for other boards. The ordinance would still stand. His appointments are still
Hang
valid.
on, he recognized Sue.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, and then could I ask Alderman Berry, if you're going to amend that, if you go halfway down the paragraph, it goes on to say the mayor of the city shall fill each vacancy, however created in the position of director is appointed by the mayor. So you would have to change that sentence as well if you're changing the whole thing.
Anywhere it says mayor, they could substitute board of mayor and alderman.
Yeah, I think that works.
I remove my amendment. I think it's fine how it is. I'm okay with us appointing 4 and the mayor appointing 1. I'll remove my amendment there. I think that's fine. There should be a perk to being a mayor. I'll remove that amendment.
I'd like to make a motion.
Sorry, Lori.
Hold an hour.
like to caveat before my motion, this is not personal at all. I would like to add a sentence that the mayor may defer to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for such appointment, though he may not self-appoint.
Let's do that by ordinance. Let's do that by ordinance.
Kind of like Kurt said, how much weight do you want this to have?
All right, somebody second that, let's vote.
What you just did is not different from what was doing already.
No, you still get the power of appointment. You just get to choose who's on the board. You just can't self-appoint, meaning you can't appoint yourself to the board.
Second.
Do you see it? Can y'all see it?
Yeah, it says you have a quorum.
I X out of it and then you have to sign back in, but then you can see it.
Okay, hang on.
Again, I'll certainly insist that that motion fail. Ready to vote? That motion does fail with 4-3. Go back to the original motion as amended twice. Any further discussion on the motion as amended? Ready to vote?
I know that one's not ready.
Not ready?
I don't know that I'm ready just yet. I'd like to just review one more. Just give me just a minute.
If we've got something from MTS that says it would be unethical, right? Didn't the attorney from MTS give us a legal
I saw
opinion
that.
that said you shouldn't self-appoint?
I think,
Well, we could put that on anything.
thought
We could put it
that's
as
what-
just a caveat, not in that section, but somewhere else.
Well, I was just wondering why we wouldn't want to have that in there if we had that legal opinion from,
because it's already state law, and if it's violated, then there's already a process to handle that. So if we as a board feel that that has been violated, even without any charter changes, then there's a process for us to handle that.
Actually, I've checked into the process, and
Right.
the law is somewhat ambiguous, and, absent, which those, by the way, have already been done, a complaint being made to the comptroller that self-appointments are in fact illegal and unethical. We have no teeth in our own.
But if it doesn't violate state law, then I'm...
But it does violate state law. It's just sometimes it's not. We want to have the authority here to enforce what we intend to enforce. That local control is that last, you can't depend on the state to come in and save you. The local control is where we have to manage our own affairs. And if we believe something is wrong, we need to state it here and make sure it doesn't happen again. That's the whole point of why many of us ran for office and got elected to this board. It's not so that we could defer to the state. It's so that we could get in here and take action and try to change some of these things that we didn't feel were right. And I'm not saying maybe it doesn't need to go in that section. Maybe we just need to say blanket self-appointments are unethical. And our ethics, it's not even about the TUA board. It could be, if you're the mayor and you wanted to be on the tree board, should you be able to appoint yourself to any board, especially a paid board? Maybe you can appoint yourself to a board, but can you appoint yourself to a paid board?
What I think the compromise would be is we have an ethics policy, we have a board manual, a board policy, which we've been looking at. We looked at 4 times or so. Let's make it a point to finish that. Let's put that in there and make that an ordinance. And we can be a little bit more expressive in that. And if future there are some things that, I think belong, you look at the state of Tennessee right now, right? The state of Tennessee wants to move elections to November. They can't, just on their own. They've got to pass a resolution, make it a constitutional amendment, and it has to be put on the ballot for people to vote on. They've got all kinds of things like that. And it's not that you want to make it super easy to change things, but there's things that belong in an ordinance for a reason, so that we can shift as time kind of changes and adjusts. Maybe we add new powers or we add more authority. So what I would suggest as a compromise is, I'm with you, I 100% agree, and I'd love to sit down and have that conversation, and I will support that ordinance, and that if we want to put that in there, and I think that we can get that on an agenda soon in January. And I'll 100% support that. But
All right, humor me, Mr. Mayor. I want everybody to take 5 minutes, think about if there's anything else, and comb through this. And while everybody's coming through, making sure I have gifts, may I pass them out?
Absolutely. The meeting is adjourned for recess. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We have two amendments. We're voting on the motion as amended. You ready to vote?
This is the big one, right?
This is the big one. Is anybody else?
This is voting on the motion as amended.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
And I will, before you vote, I will make the statement that I have been adamant about changing the election cycle. That's been a big deal. Of course, there's been a lot of erosion of the power of the mayor to a point put in this, so I certainly will have to vote no against this, and there's no reflection on this committee that's worked on this. There's an opinion that I have to support, and so I'll be voting no.
Can I say one last thing?
Yes, you may, sir.
I just want to take a minute to thank everyone who worked on this. It has been, I guess it was what, July, June? It was the very first thing, I think City Administrator Quick got the job the night before. He was at the very first meeting the next day. Sue Wilson is amazing. She is the best proofreader I have ever met in my life. She has looked at this thing. She might very well have it memorized. She was so helpful. Our city attorney, Steve Worsham. Lori was amazing. Lori stayed after the last meeting till almost midnight getting all the changes put in here and typing. Hannah with MTAS, Jordan, he was a big help, and our city administrator and our former interim city administrator played a big part in all this, Kenny Pearson. So I want to thank all of them for their help. It was a real effort, and it made me, as if I didn't already know, it was a great reminder of what amazing staff we have here and what a great job they've done. So thank all of you. I know I speak for everyone when I say that.
Thank you, Alderman Mann. Very good. Cast your vote. Passes 6-1. That certainly exceeds the 2/3 majority required. Meeting is adjourned.